Hello everybody, welcome back. Today I'm going to do the daunting task of trying to explain what a Vanguard is, what their job is, and how they go about doing their job. And I'll try to talk about all the intricacies of tanking in Marvel Rivals. So today I've pulled up this, basically this is a random mod from the Marvel Rivals meta tracker website, random VOD in GM1, okay? This might be GM3. But I'm just going to use this as a way to explain exactly what tanks in this game do and how to do it. So, first of all, we'll start off with the concept of space, okay? So, space in Marvel Rivals is basically, it's any area that your team or one of your teammates can walk through where they are not taking damage at all, right? So, if we look at the green team over here, the space that green team controls, they have a strong control over this, a strong control over this, and a decent control over the areas that are near it. Over here, this is contested space. If anybody walks through it, on either team, they're going to take a lot of damage. Red team currently controls this space over here, right? They don't have any control of up top. Nobody has control over here, right? So it's very important to understand what space is and how we interact with it. So if we go look at our tanks, they're the ones who primarily interact with how the space changes and what you're supposed to do. So the thing that makes it easy for a tank to actually hold space is two things. Number one, and most importantly, is they're a threat. Okay, so if anybody walks into a space that is occupied by an Emma or a Thor, the reason they can't take that space is if they walk into it, they are likely to die. Okay, the second thing is, and this is what differentiates a tank from a DPS, is that a tank is going to do damage and be able to stay there and take a lot of damage and not be forced to back up, right? So if we just look at health pools in general, Emma has 600, whereas this Bucky, he only has 300. So what we're going to see here is the Emma is going to enter the contested space. She's going to start building up her damage. She's building up her threat levels, okay? And what we're seeing here is the Strange is going to respond to the Emma's threat level. Right now, he's trying to walk forward and take space, right? The second that Crystal comes out, he starts taking damage. His health bar is now at half. Now he has to respect the space, give it to the Emma, use his cooldowns, and back up. He has to give space, right? He doesn't have to fully back up because he's a tank. Now, if the Bucky were playing in the exact same spot and got hit by the Crystal, let's see. If we look at the Strange, he went all the way down to like 200 health, right? He went down to 182. So he took almost 400 damage. This would have killed Bucky, even with all his bonus health, right? So this is the difference between a DPS and a tank. Now, if we watch, that's just how we held space. What Emma did in this scenario, she literally just made it to where the Strange had to stop pushing forward. So now she's building up her threat level. She's now at 75, okay? She starts taking damage herself. And so what does she do? She doesn't want to just back up and give space like a DPS was. Now she's going to use her cooldown. She uses her shield. She uses the Luna team up to buy herself some time for the supports to build up her health bar again, right? And she's going to reload and reset her threat level. Now that her health is back up, she's going to go make a play. Now, Thor makes a play on the Strange, okay? Thor is exerting force on the Strange and trying to secure a kill. He's pushing the Strange out of contested territory and into fully controlled territory, right? Because he has no backup. He quickly tries to make it back, uses his cooldowns, actually survives because he's a tank, but because of that, now all of the focus is on this Strange. Both of these supports are trying to heal his Strange. They're using it. He has to give a bunch of space up. So because of this play by the Thor and the Emma, now they have an opportunity to take space. And you're going to see this Emma, she takes advantage of it instantly, right? We throw up shield. We see a Bucky who's squishy enough to actually do it. And they're in our threat range now. They fall over instantly, right? Now our team has an advantage. This is like exactly how tanks want to play, okay? Now, in this scenario, we'll stop the VOD here, but that is just a great example of how tanks interact with space. I feel like a lot of times, especially in lower elo, people don't really understand the push and pull of tank and how it goes. You try to hold on, you build up your threat. If somebody enters that threat range, you take advantage of it, you push them out of their space, and then you push forward and take space when the momentum changes. So the next thing I want to talk about is momentum changes, right? That's a big thing in this game, and being able to read the momentum of the game, that will dictate to you if you want to be aggressive or if you want to be defensive, right? So if we go back to the beginning of this fight, back here, this is a neutral fight, okay? If anything, red team has a little bit of momentum. They have a little bit of agency coming across because they got here quickly. Whereas green team, they kind of messed around a little bit up top on high ground. Okay, they're a bit more split up. So as we watch, what's going to happen is people are going to feel the momentum of the game based on a couple different factors. Okay, first is space, which we already talked about. If one team has an overwhelming amount of space or an advantage in terms of space, right? If one team has control of a high ground or off angles on an enemy team and the enemy team is pinned down, that's an advantage that you can press. The next thing we're going to talk about now is pure momentum and numbers, right? So right here, the Emma is going to kill the Bucky, right? So we have a numbers advantage. This is going to be a 5v6, okay? So if you're playing, if you're a tank right now, and you go, okay, there's a Bucky, I get the kill. Now, what that signals to your team is we have momentum, okay? So we want to convert this momentum into winning the point and actually winning the objective, because after all, this is an objective-based game, okay? So as the fight goes on, we can't just dive straight in because we used our cooldowns in order to secure this kill. We have to reload. We have to get our shield back. Our shield only has 50 health. We have to get our health back. We're a little bit low. We have to get our E back. We have to get our thing back, right? So we need to back up, and the enemy team actually realizes this, and the enemy team knows, okay, we don't have a lot of momentum. We need to capitalize now, make a play, or else the fight is over. So they're going to go for counterplay. Okay? Unfortunately, the Punisher makes a good play and kills one of the supports. So now this is huge win time for Emma. If you're a tank in this situation, you know you're up 2, you have most of your cooldowns. It's time to push as long as you're being safe. This is not safe though, right? We go way too far in and almost get punished immediately. So the way that, even though we have good momentum, we can't just dive in recklessly, right? We still have to use our cooldowns. We still have to use our cover. And we have to play around things like that, right? Because in this game, momentum, it takes a little second for it to actually kick in. Okay, so now at this point, now we have a little bit of a weird situation if we talk about momentum, okay? So right now, both teams have lost 2, okay? So this is an even example when we talk about space, or when we talk about teams, right? This is a 4v4 situation. So if we have 4v4, the next thing we have to talk about is the quality of the picks on each team. Okay, so if we talk about a value system, the most value you can get if things are neutral is a support. So if a support is dead on one team and a support is not dead on the other team, the team that has both supports alive, they're going to have more momentum in general. So in this scenario, we've both traded a DPS. And then green team lost a tank, red team lost a support. So green team should have more momentum just based on the numbers. The other thing we have to look at again is space, right? Because now the fight has broken down. These people are now in contested territory. Your supports are in danger. At the same time, we can find red team support. She's also in contested territory. She's a little bit safer though because she's not under direct threat of the Punisher or the Emma quite yet. Okay, so being able to see all of these factors in a game and react to them with the push and pull is like insanely difficult. So if you're trying to learn this, what I want you to be thinking at first is literally just the numbers in this space, right? Okay, We're in neutral space right now. Nobody has an advantage. It's 6v6. Nobody has an advantage. Let's just play neutral. One person on the enemy team died. We have an advantage. Let's push the advantage. And the next thing we need to talk about is ults, right? So at this point in the fight, nobody has an ult, but supports are almost there. Okay? If there was a Deadpool in the game, he would have his ult already, and that could change the momentum. But right now, what we're going to see is if this Invis gets her ult, she can actually save the fight for the red team. She's at 98, 99, 100. Okay. Now there's a good chance we can actually survive. Unfortunately, it was too late. We lost space, right? We lost space. The group falls over, and that's it. And so that just goes back to the power of this team lost a DPS and a tank. This team lost a DPS and a support. So this team's going to lose. So when do you decide that giving space is too much? So the way that you understand giving space is based on momentum, and it's also based on like your own cooldowns, right? So hopefully we can find a good example of this. I think actually if we go back and we see like what was the scenario, because we know the end of the story here, right? The end of the story is red team loses. So why should we have given space? Let's look at this from Groot's perspective. So Groot sees two supports next to each other and they're half dead. If Groot is able to get this kill quickly, it's fine. But now he misses, okay? That happens. Both of them are now at full health. So in this scenario, this would be, I need to give space and get out. So what is the point of giving space up? Basically, the idea of giving space is you sacrifice this fight, right? You say, this fight is now over. I'm going to give up the space. I'm going to walk all the way back. I'm going to regroup with my team. And I'm going to make sure that the next fight is not also lost because we're trying to win an already lost fight, right? So this Groot instead, he tries to go for kills, tries to make a play. Now again, sometimes this can work, but because we're already down a support, there's no way he can actually hold it. So in general, you want to give up space if you have no chance of actually holding it and doing anything meaningful for it. The other thing is you want to give up that space if the fight is already lost and all you're going to do is cause a stagger on the front end. Okay. Does that make sense? Being able to read the momentum and understanding when to give space is so important. So we're going to watch this out and we'll see if I can pick out the next big talking point of tank. But if we want to like really understand it, like how we interact with space as a tank, I want you to really get this through your head. We want to play cover and we want to be a threat. We want to bunker down and say, anybody who comes near me, you're not going to be able to take the space away from me because if you try it, you will die, right? You can't kill me because I have cover, I have all my cooldowns, and I have my supports behind me. So you're going to have to find a different way to get through it. All right, so let's just watch a little bit. We can answer any questions in chat and see what we're doing. The green team has a huge space advantage. I think this is kind of a mistake right now to use the Punisher ult. This kind of goes back to the fight was already won for the green team, and this Punisher ult, they're going to definitely win the fight, but the fight was already won. So instead, we could have used this Punisher ult for the next fight. Now, I do like what green team is doing, and they're actually taking more space. So this is a concept that people have a really difficult time with, especially people who came from Overwatch. In Marvel Rivals, it's very different from Overwatch because Marvel Rivals really rewards taking space early and being super aggressive, okay? So then you just walk back to your team then? Yeah, you literally just go back, you give the space, you go back to a safe spot where you actually, it is valuable to hold the space. But, so in this example, like, green team wants to take space as high up as they can, that it's still possible to hold the space, and they get to take a lot of it, right? If they push too far, like here, it's not possible to hold the space because red team can literally sit and spawn and shoot them out of it and poke them. They have no threat here. Back here, they have a little bit of threat, and they can hold this for a little bit, but anytime the situation changes on space, they'll have to back up. For example, red team has a Moon Knight and a Widow. So if the Moon Knight comes on this side, let's just assume green team is right where they are, right? If the Moon Knight comes up here, let's say with the Invis or the Cloak, one of the supports, and then the Groot and the Strange and the other support push main, and the Widow comes up here. Now all of a sudden, green team is being attacked by 3 different angles, okay? And each one, they have to... the red team has cover, and they have good angles, and they have threat, and green team has no way to actually make a substantial threat, so they have to back up. So in this game, you want to take as much space as you can possibly actually realistically hold, okay? So right now, we're seeing green team hold space, and now what I believe this Emma is doing is a huge mistake. She needs to bring her shield back, and she needs to hold farther up. We already have the point, okay? We need to find a spot high up. Now, why do I want to take it high up? I already explained like why we don't want to go too far. But what you want to do when you play high up is you want to do what's called kiting. Okay, kiting is basically a concept of push and pull. And this is a great example of this, right? So Emma has an effective range right here, right? This is Emma's effective range. So what's going to happen? She's going to sit here in her effective range, which is this, okay? Anytime the Strange walks closer, so if the Strange walks up to here, what I want the Emma to do is I want the Emma to back up the same distance, okay? And so this distance is the same as this distance. So you want to keep people at the optimal length. So for Emma, it's decently far. For Mag, it's farther back. For Strange, it's much closer, right? So you play this tug of war. As the Strange walks forward, you walk backwards. You want to kite them, okay? So what's the purpose of kiting? If we start our attack way over here, okay? So green team is defending up here. Now Groot walks in. We do damage to the Groot. What that's going to do is it's going to slow their push down. They're going to need to spend resources. They're going to need to spend some of their health bar. They're going to need to spend some of their abilities. Groot's going to need to use some of his walls. Their Invis might need to use some of her shield. Their Cloak might need to use one of her windows, right? If you get those abilities out way up here, and then you kite backwards slowly, once the threat level rises enough to where you get pushed back, all of the abilities that you make red team waste up here, they're not going to be able to use when they really need them for an actual team fight over here. At the same time, you're also building up percentage on the point. So this is a domination map. So here we would be building up percentage. The same thing applies on payload maps. On payload maps, instead of percentage, you're building up the cart rolling down, right? Because in this game, you don't need somebody on cart. So this is a really important thing that I talk about a lot when I do VOD reviews is there's a huge misconception of like everybody 3 on cart. We need to get this cart moving. The cart or the percentage is not as valuable as the space in Marvel Rivals. The space is way more valuable because if you think about it, I'm sure you guys have all been in this situation. What is more difficult? Pushing out of a really hard choke at the beginning where you use all your cooldowns, you finally push them back, and then you start a team fight on the point, or the enemy team stays on point and you guys get to walk all the way up here. We get to take good positions on high ground here and over here, and we get control of main. We get access to this health pack. That's going to be way more valuable for the attacking team. And so you don't want to give that away. You want to prioritize the space. So please, like, if you're watching this from a support perspective or a DPS perspective, I want you guys to get out of the cart princess mindset. And I want you guys to get into taking space with your tank early. Because if you're over here, right? So again, we want our Emma to take space early. We want her charging her primary fire. We want her getting her ult charge up. If you're not over here, she falls over and she has to play back. If you're over here, she's taking damage and you're getting support ult charge, which is the most important thing in the game, the whole time we're walking. So like you can just tell, like, each time I mention one other aspect of the game, it's like, it's just so beneficial to hold space early, take that space early, like, be aggressive with it and really hold it. Like, again, look at all of the cooldowns that red team is using to try to get to point, right? Now, Emma makes the mistake of backing up too far. She lost all of her primary charge. She's not holding that space well. And, like, was this a justified time to back up? Let's look at her health bar. Yeah, she probably should back up. Now, I would argue she can actually stay right here, because this is a spot of space that is reasonable for your team to hold. You have cover. Your supports have cover. There is nobody on the angle forcing you out. Right here, this would be a spot to, like, bunker down and start building up your charge again until they force you out of it. Does that make sense? I hope you guys are still with me. I know this is, like, very top-down macro concepts. Okay, we get a pick. Unfortunately, though, we're about to see some ults. Here it is. All right, so what could we have done differently and holding space? So if we're holding here, this Strange has to use his shield and use his cooldowns to get past us, because he can't just walk in. I think the Thor is doing a much better job of that. But since he's by himself, he gets walled off and he gets pushed out of the way. If the Emma's here also, we can more easily hold these people back. Because of that, Strange is now on point. He has full health bar. He still has half of his shield, and he has all of his cooldowns and his thing. So getting out these cooldowns early makes it to where these people don't have access to a play like this. So be proactive with it. So good. And then... Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about, this has been a straightforward concept of like poke tank gameplay, right? We've shown a little bit of Groot, we've shown Strange, Strange is kind of Brawl, but he has a similar poke mechanic. Emma, all of that stuff is very straightforward. So the next thing I want to talk about is I want to go find a different VOD that has a dive tank. Because the way dive tanks interact with space is significantly different. The same concepts still apply, but how you manipulate it is different. So give me just a second. You guys can skip ahead on the YouTube video. Let me find a dive tank. I think we're going to go with Cap or Venom. We will look at a Celestial 3 game of Captain America. Okay? Again, this is just a random VOD. I don't know any of the people in these VODs. I'm just taking it off of the Rivals Meta website, the little tracker, okay? So let's see. Oh, we're going to skip to Cap on offense, because that will be much easier to explain. Okay. So check this out. Oh, Lord, what a cursor. Oh, my Lanta. It's a Captain America shield. Okay, anyway. So if let's just swap for a second. Let's pretend we have Emma Mag, okay? Watch the Mag. The Mag is going to walk forward into the space. He's not losing any health. There's no pressure, so he can just keep walking. Now he's taking pressure. Now he has to use some of his cooldowns, okay? And now he's trying to use his threat, his primary fire, to put some threat on the back line and make them back up. He says, if you're going to stand there, I'm going to kill you, right? That's the standard stuff we've been talking about. Now with dive tanks, this is just completely different. Same stuff is still true, okay? Contested space is over here. Red controls this space very heavily. Green controls this space very heavily, okay? So what do dive tanks do? Dive tanks don't interact here, okay? If we go over to Cap, he's literally just going to completely bypass the front line, okay? And he's going to dive into the back line. But what does this do? So if we watch, he did almost no damage, right? If we look at the amount of damage he did, see, we can actually probably calculate it. He's at 1,400, okay? 14,188, okay? He did about 100 damage with his shield throw, okay? Now, in a standard thing that we were talking about earlier, where Emma is a threat, if somebody's going to come in, she's going to do so much damage, she's going to kill them. If we look at that, you'll be like, oh, this guy didn't make any space at all, right? He was no threat. But what he did is he manipulated something called the attention economy, okay? So what he did is he ran over here, he threw his shield, and he dove back. And all that did for a couple of seconds is he pulled the attention of several people on the red team. Okay, so before he gets there, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is something else going on. We have 5 people looking at the mag. And look at the mag's health. Remember we saw earlier the mag was walking forward. He starts getting shot. His health gets chunked. He can no longer walk forward. He has to put up his shield and respect the space. Okay? The second the cap gets involved, he throws his shield. Now both supports, at least one support, is now looking over here. I believe the Hela turned to look over here at one point, and he's pulling attention away. Now this Invis is no longer healing the mag. And this mag understands that's what's happening and immediately takes advantage of it. So this is the big thing with dive tanks, is you can do something like this. You can go into their backline and you can pull attention away. But if you don't have anybody to follow up on the attention or you die, then it's not worth it. The reason this is working is because the mag walks forward. Okay? Cat makes just enough of a space, enough of a distraction for mag to walk forward. And then now this Hela can also walk forward because nobody's paying attention to her and she can get a pick. Okay? This is how dive tanks interact. They interact in a very different way. They pull the attention away from the front line and they jump into contested space. Now, things that you don't want to do in contested space, okay? You don't want to hang around. The only time you want to hang around in contested space if we're doing a full hard dive, and we can talk about soft dives and hard dives at some point. If we're doing a full hard dive, if our team is here and we have a big advantage. So what I'm hoping we're going to see is now we have an advantage. Okay, so see how he's kind of just hanging around and he's gauging the situation, okay? So if we're here, now we see our health bar is going down and it's not really going up, so we don't have a solid foothold. Our supports are doing something else, whatever it is. So that means we can't hang around long. So we get our damage, we get out, we get our health, now we can go back in. And you see now this cat player is doing a good job. He's now transitioned from being a full-on dive to now he's grouping back with his team. He made space, we pushed through the choke, now we're pushing together. This is also a really important thing to understand with dive tanks, is like your target priority is going to be significantly different. With dive DPS, you're usually always going to attack a support or a DPS. With dive tanks, you have to switch it up based on what is demanded and what's allowed, right? So if you think about this cap, if he dives headfirst into here, he doesn't have much of a threat level. He's not really going to be able to kill them. He's kind of a tickle monster, and he's very likely to die. But if he's over here and pushing on the tank, he can really cause some damage. He can really be annoying, and he's close enough to get back to his supports really easily, okay? Now, this is what happens like once the fight kind of breaks down. Okay. You push some damage. Here we go. Now, again, I'm not saying that you should never go for supports. That's not true. But we have to look for the opportunities. This Cav is doing a good job, and we get healed. Now we have our cooldowns. We see a Namor out of position. Push him out. Get the kill. Keep going. We just completely ignore mag here, right? So on the flip side, okay, how do we play against a dive character? Okay, let's go all the way back to the beginning of this fight. Now this mag is doing a good job of frontlining. This is also a solo tank mag. So when we're solo tanking, we need to understand that no matter what is going on behind us, we are the sole frontline person, okay? We need to maintain our threat level. We need to let the enemy supports know, the enemy DPS, so like in this case, Hela, if she was right here, we need to let them know if they walk into our territory, they're going to die. So if we turn around because there's a Cap in our backline, there's a BP in our backline, or a Spider-Man, what's going to happen is the green team's front line is literally just going to walk on you, and you're going to lose the space, and it's so much harder to retake space than it is to hold space. So the mag backs up a little. He's doing a decent job of trying to contest the Hela, but it's just too little too late. We're not able to do it. But this is a perfect example, though. Like, the mag is holding the space. The way he's holding the space, sorry for the Discord notification. The way he's holding the space is Hela's trying to take it. He says, no, if you stay here, you're going to die. Now the Hela has to give space, right? This is just so important. It's so good to understand this. So let's watch a little bit more about dive and see if we can pick up some other things. The other like most important pulse, I've been using that a lot. Another really important thing about dive tanks to understand is how each dive tank needs to get out. Okay? So with Cap, it's pretty straightforward. You go in with the slam, the shield slam, and you save the shield bash to get out. Mostly, okay? If you're playing Thing, this concept still applies even though he's Brawl, right? You want to go in with your either your E or your F, right? You E to a teammate who's already in, you F to an enemy, and then you save your shift, the actual running dash, you save that to get out. Because a lot of the problem where dive tanks fail to understand what's going on is they think that the value that you have to gain is by getting a kill. And so they stay in there and they're like, I'm going to get a kill. I'm going to use my health. I'm going to use my abilities to get the kill, right? But you don't have to get value like that. And the higher up you go, you're going to realize that these supports are good enough to defend themselves against you for long enough time that it's not going to matter. So you have to weave in and out based on the momentum that we talked about earlier. Because the momentum is still the same whether we're playing dive or poke or brawl. The momentum is still the same. It's just how we interact with it that changes. So let's watch a little bit more and see if we can pick out some good examples, and then we'll try to move on to brawl. Okay, nice. So this is a pretty good example of like giving space a little bit. So he's pushing, he's pushing, he's pushing. We're getting out. Oh, something else I want to point out. I'll do that in a second. But we're making space. We're pulling the attention away from these guys. Now the mag is forced to turn around. As he turns around, our team is taking space. Like this is a great example. We start losing our health. And so we're like, I need to get out. So we use our dash. Now they have a support ult. Now I really need to get out. But now we have a support ult, so it's like, okay, now the threat level's gone. I can actually go back in and be all right. Pick up a health pack and be fine and keep doing my job of pulling attention. Now, the other thing I want to talk about when we talk about alternative value, right? So the highest value you can get is getting a kill. Rarely happens. The next highest is pulling people's attentions away. The other thing you can get out is value of making the enemy use their cooldowns in a bad way. Like if you force a cooldown. So in this scenario, let's go back a little bit, right? Go back to what this Cap is doing when he jumps into the tunnel. So right here, it's a pretty neutral fight. We get the kill on Namor, so we have a bit of an advantage. And so watch what he does. He goes in with the mag bubble. So what did we see? We saw Cloak use window. Okay. Now we've seen Cloak use bubble. Okay. Now we've seen Invis use push. So we forced out 3 different support cooldowns. That's huge value. If you can see that in a game and be like, okay, I went in, I got a bunch of support cooldowns out. I'm going to get out and accept that I got some value. Hopefully our supports now have it and we can make a push, right? Same thing goes for support ults. If you can force out a support ult, that is the best thing that you could probably do next to actually killing the support. Because if you support ult in the wrong time, that's a really easy way to lose the game. Okay, now the fight's over, so we're just kind of cleaning up. We get the point. Killed it. Nice. Kill. Move on. And now check this out. Immediately, we're going to start taking space. Immediately. Doesn't matter if you're a Brawl, if you're a Poke, if you're a Dive, you want to take the space early. It's so much easier to hold space than it is to retake space. Check this out. Again, we're paying attention to our health bar. This is something I haven't really talked directly about, but your health bar as a tank, you can actually use this as a tool, okay? This is the easiest way to figure out if you need to walk forward or walk backwards, right? If your health bar is not going back up and you're taking damage, that means you're not getting healed for whatever reason. Either you're too far, or there's divers in your backline, or your backline's dead, or, you know, whatever reason. This is letting you know, I can't keep pushing forward or I'm going to die. So Cap sees that. He sees that he has no support because his health isn't going up, and he backs up. Now we go get support. Now we go back in. Okay? Health is not really going up. Let's get out. Get health. Go back in. Okay? Health is not going up. We should have gotten out. We didn't respect our health bar enough. Okay? So this is how every dive tank works when you're actually diving. So let's just look over the hero list real quick. That was a good example of Cap. Let's look. If we go to heroes, we go to Vanguards. Your dive tanks, or your straight up dive tanks, Venom, Cap, and Angela. Those three all basically exclusively work like that. Okay? Now we have our hybrid tanks. Okay, we're talking Thor, Rogue, Hulk, Deadpool, kind of. All of those, they can play like that. Definitely can dive. But they can also brawl. Okay, so let's take a look at Thing, and let's go look at Brawl. So second. And let's pull up another one. And we'll look at Brawl. The Thing. All right. Here's a GM2 game by somebody playing The Thing. Hopefully this will be a good one. We'll take a look at Brawl. Again, a lot of these concepts, they stay the same depending on the character that you're playing and things like that. It's just how you interact with the space changes. Okay? Nothing is in the game. Miss it? They've been here the whole time? No, they switched off. Okay. Alright. So now we're on Thing. I'm actually going to skip until we lose a fight. Or either lose or win a fight. We want to start from neutral. Alright, so this looks like we're in neutral, right? We just want to fight. Why is there a AFK mag? Hello? Alright, so what do you want as a Brawl tank, right? How do you interact with space? Brawl tanks, they don't have long-range attacks, so they can't poke. They don't have a crazy amount of mobility, so they can't dive. So what you do is you brawl it out, right? So how you want to do this is you want to minimize the damage that you're taking when you're not in a actual brawl. So I want to see you using cover. I want to see you not taking damage if you don't need to. I want to see you holding the correct spots. This might not be a good VOD for this. Let's skip to here. Maybe we... Okay, we're on thing on attack. All right. This would be hopefully better. Okay, so check this out. Already, we want to minimize the damage we're taking, and we want to close the distance. We want to find a way to close the distance without making ourselves stranded there. So remember earlier I said we want to use our E and our F to get in. That's these two abilities. And we want to save our shift to get out. Because once we're in there, it's really difficult to get out. So this is not a good job of like minimizing your damage. It is a good job of respecting the health bar and be like, well, I'm not going to push in, okay? So now we want to just shoot what's available. So let's talk about like space. Let's talk about space here, okay? So we have contested territory, we have green team control, and we have red team control, okay? So Thing jumps into contested territory. How do we force people out of territory? It's by being a threat. Now, Thing has a decent enough matchup against Mag if he can get close. Once he gets close, it's like, it's really scary for Mag, okay? So the Mag has to use his bubble. He already used his shield. Now he's backing up. And the enemy supports are dumping a lot of resources into the Mag just to keep him alive, and it wasn't enough, okay? So this is what you want to do on Brawl, is you want to find a way to get in close, understand where you need to go, and then I would not recommend playing like this. I like what this person is doing. I just think the way they went about it was incorrect, right? We don't want to charge in with our shift because that leaves us stranded in a way to where we're going to die, right? We really lucky we get bailed out here. By all manner, like we should be dead. So with Brawl basically you want to like shorten it down and you want to anchor down in a corner until there's momentum enough for you to push in. You want to minimize your damage until then and like really capitalize when there's a time to go, okay? Let's see. We're playing it slow. We actually got a pick, but our Ultron's down, so let's just play it slow. Our Penny's doing a good job of taking some space. Let's push with them. This is such a good example. So Mag is trying to hold the space against the Penny, right? Why can't he hold the space? Because he's not a threat. The Penny can literally just ignore him because he can't kill her. He just can't by himself. Like, if you see that opportunity and you're playing any tank, it's like, hey, they can't kill me, so I can just walk forward, right? I think Thing does the exact same thing, and he's like, oh, they can't kill me. But then we don't realize, like, no, there's a wall behind us. There's no chance our supports can heal us. There's no chance we can even use our shift to get out because we already used it, right? We really have to understand that, like, push and pull and how we interact with it.
You're halfway there. Keep going.
I'm sure there's a lot more concepts of tank that I can talk about. I can talk about this for hours and hours. But I hope that gave you guys a good, like, basic understanding of what you want to do, of how tanks interact with space, how we know when to push forward, when to push back, how we're not going to sit on cart anymore, guys, right? We're going to push up early. We're going to take the space. We're going to hold it because it's way easier to hold on to space than it is to take space. So, I don't know. In chat, do you guys have any questions? Let me know. Are we doing the tank rant? Yeah, we're talking about Vanguards, what it takes to be a good Vanguard, how we interact with space, stuff like that. Yeah, let me know if you guys have any questions in chat. Also, if you guys are watching this on YouTube, come check out the Twitch. I'm live generally 5 days a week during the weekdays. Check out Twitch. I stream on Twitch and YouTube. We have a good, cool Discord. Come check it out. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below on the YouTube video. I will be very active in trying to answer them. I hope this explains stuff well. Yes, it definitely helps. Great. If I could help one person with this, I'm happy. So, if there's no questions, I guess that'll be it for the YouTube video. Yeah, I think that's it. It should not brawl if you don't have frontline tank. So brawls are frontline tanks. So I guess we haven't really talked about how each one's interact, right? See if I can talk about that succinctly. Right now it's hard because Poke is so damn good. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, Brawl is all about, like, closing the distance. So if you can find a way to close the distance, you can play Brawl into anything. You can play a thing into anything. The hard part is now people are getting really good with Hela and really good with Phoenix and really good with Punisher and Ultron and Mantis and Mag and Emma. And so all of these characters like really punish you before you even get to it. So if you can find a way to close that distance, you can. You definitely, though, like when we're solo tanking, things like that. How am I taking space and avoiding damage if I'm the solo tank? Okay, so solo tanking we probably need to talk about. Solo tanking is just built different. Solo tank is really hard in general in this game and every game because a lot of your responsibility comes down to it. A lot of the game's responsibility comes down to you and what you can control, right? So if we look at all of the examples we've used earlier of like denying the enemy space or taking space, it's based on your threat. So if you're solo tanking, you still need to find a way to be a threat, but also hold the front line down. And so obviously you're doing half damage of having two tanks. If there's two tanks up front, you guys can hold space and be threatful. So if you're in a situation where you're forced to solo tank, what I would do is I would try to find the spot where you can both be a threat to the squishies and push them back, but also not let your team get run over. Okay? This is really difficult it's really hard to find that balance, and it's going to depend like very much on what supports you have, what supports the enemy teams have, what DPS you have, what map it is. It's not exactly like straightforward. I think we'll probably have to do another video on solo tanking if there's enough interest and if I can find enough examples of like good solo tanking and bad solo tanking to where we can actually compare in a reasonable, easy to dissect way. So solo tanking's hard, is what I'll say. Solo tanking, you just want to find a way that you can still make progress. So what I would do, the very short TLDR of how I would play it if I'm solo tanking, is I would actually just try to make threats on the enemy team and try to hold the front line. If I noticed that we're just getting run over on the front line, I would actually just give the front line up. I would go play a more versatile tank instead of a straight up poke tank like Hulk or Thor or dude, I'm blinking right now. But like Hulk and Thor, where you can actually just kind of go crazy, leave your backline to it because we're on solo tank. You can't stop them anyway. And then go try to find a way to cause chaos somewhere else. Right? But Mag probably is the best solo tank in the game at holding the front line. What I said only applies if you can't hold the front line. Well, on console, people are going like triple support and triple DPS. That's why I asked. Yeah, those need to be a topic for another video. I think that's kind of outside the scope. So this was a basic top down of like how Vanguard, how tank works in Marvel Rivals, how we interact with space, how the different roles and characters play within that space, and how we do that. Had someone tell me before that they were being dope because I wasn't making space for them as a solo tank. That was a fun game. Yeah. It's tough. It's tough because, like, again, how do we make space? We have to be a threat, and we have to force people out. If we're solo tanking, we don't have that capability by ourselves a lot of the time. So we have to find alternative ways of making that space. Also, if we're playing support, we're playing DPS, and we realize that we only have a tank, there are things that you can do to help your solo tank make space, right? And so in this example, we have a mag here, right? Let's just assume there isn't a ult, a Sue ult going on right now. We have a mag. If we had a DPS over here and they were putting pressure on the support and pressure on the DPS, what that's going to do is, again, it's kind of like the attention economy. These people are going to look at the DPS. Maybe they get a pick, maybe they don't, right? But if two people over here are looking this way, now the solo tank mag has 2 less people looking at him, and that can really ease the pressure. Okay? Especially kiting. Yeah, kiting's so important. It's so valuable. Do some damage, kite it back, and then find the spot that you hold down in. It's so good, especially on payload. Switch to tank. Yeah, I mean, that'd be nice. So, okay. That's it for this YouTube video explaining Vanguards. Maybe we'll do another one like this in the future if you guys like it, for Strategist, for Duelist, for solo tanking. So let me know if you guys like it. Yeah. Take care. God bless. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.